All right, good day everyone. So today is our week 3 or the third week for the second semester, second quarter for the subject CSS 12. And now we are just going to discuss the continuation of what we had tackled or on what we had learned last meeting. So today is we are going to talk about the connecting your router to a broadband providers. So in connecting your router to a broadband providers, we have three steps. So the first thing that we're going to do is when you power on the router, it will only create its Wi-Fi network and the device will be connected to the router's Wi-Fi connection, not the internet. So to connect the router to the internet with some internet providers, like for example the GTPL in India, it is required to register router's MAC address to the Internet Service Provider website. So MAC of the router can be found printed on router or in the documents, etc. So you have to go to the Internet Service Provider's website and then you have to log in with the username and password provided by the Internet Service Provider and go to MAC address update option. One can see the existing laptop or PC's MAC address there. You have to add the router's MAC address there and save it. So this process means that the router is authorized to use internet provided by the broadband company. Now is on how to configure the router. So as you can see here, this one here is what we call the IP address. They're the 192.168.254.254. That is an example of an IP address. So in configuring the router, you have to find the IP address of the router. So if this is a new installation of or new router, you have to determine the default IP address that may be printed on a label affixed to the router or in the documentation. So if you can't find the router's IP address anywhere, you can do a web search for the router model to see what the default address is. So the IP addresses are formatted as for groups. So are of up to 3 digits. So again, IP addresses are formatted as for groups of up to 3 digits. So we have here an example. 4 groups by 3 digits each. So this is separated by periods. Most default IP addresses are 192.168.1.1. We also have the 192.168.0.1 or 192.168.2.1. Next one, number 2, you have to open a web browser on the computer that is connected to the router. So you have to enter the IP address of the router into the address bar and press enter. So your browser will attempt to connect to the router's configuration menu. So for example, here on the Google Meet, you will enter there the IP address. So if your router came with an installation disk, you can run the configuration program from that instead. So it will accomplish many of the same functions. One, you have here, you enter your username and password. So in order to access the configuration page, you will need to be on the router's IP address and enter a valid username and password at that prompt. So most routers have a basic account set up that you will need to use to log on. So this varies from model to model, but should be printed on the router or in the documentation. So the most typical username is admin, and then the most typical passwords are admin and password. Okay, so many routers will only require a username and a blank password, and some allow you to leave all fields blank. So if you can't figure out the correct IP address, your username or password, you can search for your router model online to see what the default login is. So if it has been changed, you have to press the reset button on the back of the router for 10 or to 30 plus seconds as dictated in the instructions for the router model to restore factory defaults and try again. So the fourth one, you have to open the wireless settings. So when you log into your router, you will be given or you'll be taken to the router's main menu and status screen. So there will be several options to choose from. So the internet section can usually be left at default settings. So unless you received specific instructions from your internet service provider, the wireless section will allow you to set up your wireless network. Next, here, you have to enter a name for your wireless network. So in the wireless section, here, you should see a field labeled SSID or name. So here, it is found here, SSID profile or SSID. So you have to enter a unique name for your wireless network. So this is what other devices will see when scanning for networks. You have to check the box to enable SSID broadcast. So this will essentially turn on the wireless network so that it may be readily seen by anyone in range of the signal. So you have to see the tips section below for additional information on the SSID setting. Second, you have to choose a security method. You have to choose from the list of available security options. So for the best security, you have to choose the WPA2-PSK as the encryption method. So as you can see in the picture, so this is the most difficult security to crack and will give you the most protection from hackers and intruders. The third one is you have to create a paraphrase. Once you've chosen your security method, you have to enter in a passphrase rather for the network. So this should be a difficult password with a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. So don't use any passwords that could be easily deduced from your network team or from knowing you. So we have there, our example is Wiki How Rocks. Alright. So you have to save your settings. So this is the fourth one. Or the another steps that you have to remember. So you have to save your settings. So once you are finished naming and securing your wireless network, you have to click the apply or save button to your then the changes which will be applied to your router, which may take a few moments. Once the router has finished resetting your wireless network, it will be enabled and you have to click the submit. Next one is you have to change your router's username and password from the default. So once you have your network configured, you should change the username and password that you use to access your router. So this will help protect your router from unauthorized changes. So you can change this from the administration section of the router configuration menu. Next, block sites. So if you want to prevent devices that are connected to your network from accessing certain websites, you can use built-in blocking tools to restrict access or restrict access. So this can be found in the security block section of the router. So you can usually block by specific domain names or by keyboards or keywords. Next, connecting your devices. So you have to connect a computer or a tablet or a smartphone to the wireless network. You have to scan for the wireless number with the SSID you provided above. So on any device that supports wireless networks, you should see your new networks as long as you are within range of the router. So you have to select it and you will be prompted for the passphrase. Next one, you have to enter your wireless passphrase. Once you enter the passphrase, your device will be automatically connected to the wireless network. So the network will be stored in your device's memory and will automatically connect whenever you are within the range. So for detailed instructions on selecting and joining a wireless network for a specific computer or tablet or smartphone, you have to follow the guide. So next here, in connecting your other devices besides other computers and tablets, you can connect other devices as well, such as printers, game consoles, TVs, and more. So that could be all for our lesson for today. Thank you and goodbye.